cool. Got the whole darn thing, so thank you, dear.
You're welcome.
Apparently, Google Chrome will not play the file.
Interesting. All right. Here we are. I can see me. Hi, everybody.
Now, in just a moment, I'll be there too. Right now. Hello, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron. I was just getting my chat out, so I could see everybody. How you doing? How's the weather where you are right now? Well, I guess we'll see who shows up today, huh? Nice and sunny here. Just nice for a change. It's been really foggy in the mornings because we were in the heat wave inland. And whenever there's a lot of heat inland, we get a lot of fog, ocean fog and coolness. Ian says, welcome to all viewers. Please feel free to chime in.
As long as it's on related subject.
Yep, related. Magically so. I had somebody ask me, I forgot to tell you this, if I could reproduce my lunar wand. They wanted to have one for themselves.
And you can certainly make one that looks the same, I guess.
Well, I mean, considering the fact we had to have a very large piece of willow, had to hollow part of it out, get an actual piece of silver tubing to go in the middle, fill it with
That's true. We did
moonstone,
all that stuff.
get
didn't we?
13 moonstone cabochons to put on the thing.
I forgot about putting that lunar
Yes.
tube in. Yeah.
And I don't even know how much that would cost in materials. Those cabochons were not cheap.
Yeah.
I think I spent $80 or $90 just on getting the stones, all the different colors. And I don't even know where I could get them now. I'd have to find them in a weird place. Anyway.
Like everyone has shut up.
Yeah, Violet says, hello, you two. Hi, Violet. Teresa says, blessed be. May today's stream be a sacred space. Well, let's hope so. Beth says, hello, Siofra and Ian. Hello, everyone. Hi, Beth. Sandcat says, hi, everyone. Hi, Sandcat. Yeah, it's always kind of interesting when people don't realize what it takes to actually make a wand like that.
Well, yeah.
And then I'd have to not only cut it at the right time, but then dry it for a year before we could even dare to like hollow it out, because then it bends a little bit, and you know.
You know, just there was this old tradition of like passing the wand for the old magicians, the old ceremonial magicians. Like you get this initiation in your wand, and then it was like a transmission of the wand from one to another. You'd like tie them together overnight or something like that.
Oh yeah, that would
to
make
let
sense.
The energy charge up
The new one,
so the
transmit the stream of energy
from wand to wand with somebody's charged up wand. It's just kind of an interesting.
Well, we've done that with other objects.
Yeah.
I mean, we did that with statues that everybody bought to make their own temples when we were doing the active group. And we would have them in here and tied to the original statue in order to link them together. So, yeah, binding things together and putting them together like that is a pretty traditional method for not only transmitting the energy, but linking the items so that they're like the same item. Beth says, I'm still working on my wand that guided to you. My wand that guided to you. Blessed be. Hi, Beth. Thank you. I'm good. That's a good thing. Hey, I met somebody online left a message on my wand video and said that they had named their cat Siofra, which is why they were attracted to my video in the first place, and then they decided to stay. And I'm like, a cat named Siofra. I kind of like that. Now I have a tent named Siofra. Luna named her tent after me.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah. She has this wonderful bell tent that she's using for readings and stuff like that when she goes to fairs.
Cool. Okay.
I forgot to tell you that, too. It's just like random Siofra things are popping up. It's pretty awesome. But anyway, yes. It takes a while to make wands. She was asking me if I was going to make any more, and I said, well, I've been dealing with some real life issues of late and have not been in the right frame of mind for wand making, because I feel it's very important for me to be in, you know, the right space if I'm going to be putting things on a sacred
Yeah,
piece of
well, we had a
wood.
few heavy duty families things happen lately that are pretty much like everything's on the mend and in a good place now. But
Yeah,
yeah, it
but
took
I
some.
I had to take time away from doing magical crafts because I don't, like we were talking about food last week. I don't want to contaminate my the things I'm making with unresolved issues that I might be going through. So I'm in a better frame of mind now. So I think I'm about ready to start picking up all my wand pieces and my crystals and everything else and start figuring out who wants to be on what and how they want to be there and etc. So
I
it'll
have
be a
to
few weeks.
I have to start painting again if I can just get
Your arm,
my arm up to
yeah.
snuff. Either that or learn how to paint left-handed, which I've been working on a little bit. But boy, it takes a long time to get that coordination up in your alternate hand if you haven't done fine detail work,
Oh, that would
with
be
your
really
left hand
something. Yeah.
for a right-handed person. Yeah.
So Beth also added wine, and Siofra is a powerful and beautiful name for a cat. Sandcat says, "Where does your name come from, Siofra? It's quite unique. It's actually an Irish name, and it means spirited. Well, the whole name together, Siofra Bradigan, is spirited elf. So Siofra is actually the elf part. Anything with an SI that's pronounced she is going to be related to the she, the SIDHE, in the Celtic language. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
when I had to find a a pen name for the books that my ex was writing about me, that's what I came up with. And weirdly enough, there is a historical Siofra Bradigan in Ireland, a woman that was known, a witch in the swamps or something, that had the reputation to bring the dead back to life and making them walk. And I just thought that is a weird synchronicity that there's this historical Siofra Bradigan that was a witch, reputedly so,
You know,
and a necromancer apparently.
I want to move you a smidgen.
Am I? You gonna
I'm
move?
just gonna go like
He's
one.
gonna move me.
How's that?
I don't know.
Are you more centered? Yeah, a little bit. A little more. Boink, boink.
He's moving me around. Oh,
There. Now you're more
I'm
centered.
falling. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Teresa says, because you are a very important lady. Thank you. That says, absolutely. Teresa says, finger painting again? No, I don't think the kind of painting he's doing, fingers are too thick for that. He's got
Yeah,
big fingers,
I
unlike
do.
me.
I do very little. I do too much detail work. It takes me forever to do a large painting, which I just
Yeah.
finished. I'm going to varnish that soon, and I'll probably make a video for how to varnish one.
Sandgat says, I can't drink wine because it's 9 a.m. here in New Zealand. I love your name. It's beautiful. Thank you. I mean, I figured I was going to have, a pen name. I didn't want it to be just some random thing. And I was worried. I didn't want to pick a name where someone else was already called that name. And then if, David's books somehow made people think they needed to contact the authors, etc., that they would be hunting someone else down who wasn't me. So, yeah. And I actually checked, and there, at the time, was no Siofra Bradigan in Ireland or anywhere else that I could find that was like online. So I was trying to be uh, responsible and thinking ahead. And I had no idea I was going to start the channel, so that was like before this. That was
Sure.
just to kind of give me a little bit of protection from potential crazed fans of my channeling work that David was like writing books about up there. He's still doing that kind of thing, but he stopped being friends with me on Facebook because, in his words, I've changed too much, which I thought was
Yeah.
great.
In other words, she's interested in a lot more things than just being a channel.
That's right. That's part of it. And also not just taking his direction anymore. It's like I always was a witch. When I met him, I was a witch. And it was when I was with him that I got Starhawk's book. In fact, he's the one who bought it for me, The Spiral Dance, which was like an awakening and an epiphany that, oh wow, there's other people out there that are like me. This is amazing. So yeah. Teresa says, I kind of like the idea of you being a swamp witch. I'd hate to cross you though.
I don't know if you know, Tom Petty has a good song about that called Red River.
It's about swamp witches?
More or less about a particular one, I guess.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to show you the song. It's actually pretty cool. I like it. He's got some good music.
Okay then. I look forward to hearing the
Yep.
lyrics.
I think it's off either the Mojo album or the Hypnotic Eye.
I
Those
have
two,
no
I
clue.
think.
You can
Sorry.
look at me as if I
Sorry.
know.
What can I say? It's irrelevant to the channel. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm just kind of an audio person anyway. So,
Now,
music
Beth
person.
says these young fairy playtime cute baby witches on YouTube crank out a wand in a couple hours. They're holding the skeleton of a tree. It takes almost a year for me with love intention. Yeah,
Yeah, really, if you're gonna, if you're gonna get something charged up and really working well, it just takes effort and time. There's no real shortcut for that to get a good wand.
yeah. Wednesday says Marie L. I'm not sure what that refers to. Is that like a,
Well, could be Marie Laveau, but I don't
that
know.
was the only thing that came to mind.
Yeah,
Um,
but I don't know. The Swamp Witch,
oh,
maybe. I don't know.
maybe she said
It's
yes.
yes. Yeah.
Is that about the song, the Tom Petty song? Maybe it's about Marie Laveau.
I don't know, honestly. I
Yeah,
just like the song. I don't know anything of the
she says
history of
yes
it. Oh,
again.
okay, cool. All right.
Okay then. Beth says to make a powerful wand, completely letting go of the ego. Yeah, no kidding. I mean, it's funny when you're working with wood and stuff like that. It's like when I was making my water wand, I had this wonderful piece of blue crystal. I thought it was just the perfect color. And I tried getting that thing to go on this wand and it refused to stay. There was nothing. I tried, I don't know, a bunch of different methods to try and get this thing on there. And then it suddenly dawned on me that this was a quartz crystal that had been sprayed with gold that makes that blue aura kind of crystal. And it was solar, not water at all. And so then I found something different. I found a piece of seraphinite, I think it was. Yeah, seraphinite that I put on it, and then some pearls wrap around the shaft, and it liked that. So there's like communication between me and the piece of wood, and some things I show it to it, and it's like, oh yeah, and other things is like, eh. So have to pay attention. That's when you're listening to that. So Teresa says, I was going through my magical diary I was keeping in the 1990s. I sure did love Diana even then. Yeah, Artemis, got a statue of Artemis Diana. I painted quite lovely. I found this wonderful paint you could put on top of it that made it look like little silver sparkles on it, like moonlight. That was kind of fun. Chief Keef says, could you use a quartz wand quartz crystal as a wand without the stick? It would still transmit energy, wouldn't it?
Sure.
Well, yeah, it's easier if it's a longer piece just because of the representation of, like, the wand is like the finger, an extension of the finger, which is why it's considered impolite to point your finger straight at somebody, because you're projecting energy through your arm and your hand and your finger to them. And in a lot of cultures, that's considered incredibly rude and potentially like trying to curse them or something like that. So that length kind of a thing is a part of the transmission thing, whatever. Anyway, Astra says, hi, everyone. Hi, Astra. Robert says, I am back, Siofra. You told me to ask this question today. What is a pagan?
Beth says hers aren't pretty, but very, very effective.
Ah, sorry, I missed that one. It doesn't matter. I mean, that's the point, right? Is effectiveness.
Well, that's yeah, my take on everything, including electronics and all the do-it-yourself stuff I do, is function first and then make it pretty afterwards. But it needs to perform its function. Otherwise, pretty doesn't do it any good, unless that's its purpose, like artwork.
Yeah. So, and Beth added with the wands, oh, Schieffer, your wands are most excellent. I wish others could find you on YouTube and the algorithm. Okay, so back to Robert. Need to answer the question, what is a
Yes.
pagan? And it's a very broad category because basically the concept of a pagan is any group of people or thought processes or whatever that relate to nature. People that worship nature, are involved with nature, who think of nature as sacred.
You mean it doesn't mean people against goodness and normalcy? Sorry,
Well, that would be an acronym.
just asking.
That would be a Christian definition of a pagan.
No, that was from the old Dan Aykroyd film,
Yes.
whatever it's called. Yeah.
But yes, um, and there are a lot of different kinds. I mean, paganism is the extremely broad umbrella, and then you get to the specifics. It's kind of like I guess Christianity in itself could be a very broad umbrella as well. With you've got all the different denominations between the Mormons and the Seventh Day Adventists and the Baptists and the Spiritists and the Catholics and everything in between. They have the broad umbrella of being considered Christian, and yet they have very independent and different kinds of beliefs about what that means and ways of practicing. So that's true of paganism, and a lot of people that fall under the pagan umbrella do not appreciate being under the pagan umbrella because they have their own issues with the whole idea. It's like some people would put Buddhism under that umbrella.
Does the pagan umbrella have to have Carnunos on it? How does that work? Sorry.
I don't know. He's in one of his moods. Yes, it's a big umbrella and it's got all kinds of colors. A rainbow umbrella. And within that, there's just not the different practices, but the different philosophies and attitudes towards magic energy and how you use them. So, like, there's the quote unquote light workers that think you're not allowed to defend yourself. There's the dark practitioners who, think that everything ought to be about that. So, in the original definition of pagan meant country dweller. So anyone who didn't live in a city and wasn't the member of their cultural aristocracy and business whatever was considered inferior and pagan. So it's kind of like indigenous people were all considered pagan because they were quote unquote uneducated and didn't understand how things worked, which was just really stupid. We were very lame as a people, not understanding the nature of reality and so forth. And people that do tarot or do energy healing or that do ritual like we do, um, that live in nature and that or get off the grid. I mean, there's like so many different ways. Wicca is a religion that's under the pagan umbrella, but what I practice is not a religion. I'm not in a religion, and religion is defined as a specific a set of practices and beliefs that all the practitioners agree to follow. And within Wicca, there are specific things that anyone who is a member of any of the branches, of which there are also many, like Gardnerian, Alexandrian, Seax, and several others there. But they all have some things in common, and then they have their individual initiatory practices that are specific just to them, secret names of deities and that kind of thing, that kind of define their stream of energy and so forth. So that is what a pagan is, and then the question becomes, what are you? What am I? What are we doing? And looking at definitions, everybody wanted a definition. Stick a box, get a label, something that people can handle, get a grip on. So the only thing I could come up with for myself was a universalist eclectic. And eclectic is someone that doesn't follow a specific tradition, but takes practices from many other sources of information and so forth, and then picks and chooses what works for them. Some people that are in traditional practices think that eclectics are wishy-washy and just can't make up their mind. It just really depends on the eclectic, I guess. And I work with multiple pantheons from Egyptian, Greek, some Roman, Norse, um, Hindu deities, just as some of the bigger groups and so forth that I've worked with, Celtic, um, and so forth, and I find the similarities between the different pantheons and work with the energies that fit make sense to me. And then with the definitions of your ethics and so forth, according to one of the definitions, I'm what they would call a gray witch because I believe in self-defense. And so the idea of being comfortable in both the light and the dark, as they call it, those human definitions of energy and so forth, and using what works for me at a given time would make me be defined by them as that. But labels are only as useful as your ability to understand that that's what they are and to not force yourself to fit in them because we're all much more than whatever label it is that we can come up with. And I'm sure you all know that. So Beth says that for so many years, I used my finger or my palms, very effective. And Robert, you're such a sweet love. Robert says, I have 6 wands at home, one with a snowflake obsidian, one with amethyst, 2 Lemurian quartz, and 2 of citrine. Sounds nice. Beth says, great question, Robert, which we were answering. Astra says, I just left the group. The people in there were crazy, and I didn't like the Fae. What? Oh, they were crazy, and they didn't like the Fae. Okay, I'm like, what? Okay, gotcha. Me and my little brain. I have to put that in the right order. Sorry to hear that. I didn't approve a couple of comments because they were too obnoxious and stupid. So, I'm critical, apparently, and quite judgmental. Beth says, Wicca was too much responsibility and drama for me. I chose paganism.
Well, it's true. This stuff is not for anybody. I played with the group stuff like that for a while, and yeah, not into it anymore. I guess I learned my lesson. Not that there's any problem with group stuff, but as far as like I said, too much drama. You get this old, you get tired of the drama. That's for sure. Stuff like that.
Finding
Yeah.
clear people is very difficult. Wednesday
Yep.
said, animist pagan here, nature based.
Yeah.
Yeah, an animist is someone who believes that all of nature is self aware and alive and sacred. And that would be part of my belief system as well, since stones and trees are people I talk to usually have more interesting things to say than most of the humans that I've encountered. Robert says, agreed, Beth, pagan is more earth and feel more real to me. Chief Keef says, does a mystic truly need an umbrella? I'd rather swim.
Well, Chief, my thought on that is a mystic is the lotus that has struggled its way up through the mud at the bottom and sits on the surface unsoiled and untouched, perfect,
It is
and
the umbrella.
absorbs the nice cooling cleansing rain. So you don't need to swim, you float on the surface by the time you reach that point.
And then your umbrella for all
There you
the
go.
fish that are under you.
Yep.
A shade, nice shady spot for them.
Yep.
Robert says, I'd rather be rich. Being rich would be nice. Beth says, Robert, it works for me. It takes out so much and grounds you so much. Robert says, I didn't like the gods worship in Wicca, which was too much focus on and not on us people. Well, yeah, and it's like it is a religion. So if
Yeah.
it doesn't fit, don't go there because you can just be on your own and it no matter what we decide, it's still our unique and individual path that we're on. So, you know.
Yeah. That's really the important part, if you ask me. That's why I'm on the individual path that I am. I don't belong to any particular religion.
So Teresa says, you use tarot much for yourself for spiritual work? Not at this time in my development. I used it a lot. I started when I was in high school, so 1964. Yeah, I was a freshman in high school when I started using the tarot. So I did that probably for about 30 years or so, but I'm not really using the tarot that much at this point, hardly ever. Astra says, I'm thought witches and fairies go together like peanut butter and jelly. I wasn't expecting such a reaction from an Irish pagan, totally wacko. Well, the Irish themselves are often not that fond of the Fae. They have a lot of fear-based information, like we've talked about in the past, and some of them aren't willing to look at why they're afraid of them and what the misinformation might be, and that there might be misinformation to start with. And any group can have dogma in it. It doesn't matter. And that's why we do the personal work. Is like the whole point of shadow work and individual work on yourself and so forth, is to look at those things in yourself and to evaluate them, and then to decide whether they're sensible, they work for you if you want to keep them, or if you want to let them go. And that's entirely up to you. So I'm sorry that they were like that. Robert says, I used to do Tarot and no more. Some dude says, peace, peace. Robert says, even an Irish group? Wow, you were unlucky. Then again, so many people aren't what they project. There's a fact. Ha! Beth says, I was Gardnerian. I know I misspelled it. It's always good to know.
Yep.
Robert says, I have dragon guys. They keep telling me, and trolls or gnomes to keep me grounded. That probably would be gnomes. Trolls are sort of different. They're not like gnomes. I met a forest troll once, and they're huge. They're very imposing, to say the least. Yeah. Astor says, it wasn't exclusively Irish. It's in the Irish. Guy said some nasty stuff to me right off the bat. Crazy. Robert says, yeah, even so, it's weird. Beth says, Astra, hello, my friend. Astra says, a lot of pagans don't like angels and fairies, I guess. Yeah, and that's the reason why that is my most popular video of all time. Because there's so much witches and witches and fairies always have had a historically friendly and relationship with one another. If fairies are mean to other people, which I don't think they necessarily are, but if they are, they don't have the same attitude towards witches, because we're closer to their realm, because we deal with magic, we deal with, the plant kingdom, the nature and so forth, which is their bailiwick. So it's like they don't see us as a threat or something they need to defend against, and they often extend a helping hand to try and help us with what we're doing, and we help them and so forth. And who changed it? I'm not entirely sure. Somewhere along the line, that script got flipped by somebody, and it's stuck. And with the internet, you say something negative about anything, and it multiplies a million times like grass fires. It's just crazy. And then nobody remembers or looks into it further. And just especially when they're new, they are looking for information and they run across this stuff, and people are telling them that they think have authority and saying, this is a bad idea, don't do it. This is, there's books written about how it's a bad idea and don't do it, and, whatnot. And of course, the Christians think that the fairies are working for Satan. One has to believe in that whole pantheon in order for that to be a problem, even if it were true, which it's not. And, so yeah, it's complicated, which is why I'm eclectic. And I try to make up my own mind. It's sort of that phone tree kind of thing, where the one person says one thing and then they say it to another, and that gets changed into something else, into something else, into something else. And before you know it, you have no clue what the first person actually even said. So making up your own mind seems to be a good thing. Beth says, oh, wow, a bird just flew in and perched in on the TV just for you. Oh, awesome. I have a thing for birds. Me and birds are like, compatico. We like each other. Robert says, Beth, for sure, it is a sign that we belong here. Some dude says, I have a question. How can I determine someone is trustworthy? I've had an insane ride of a life, and I've got some secrets which I prefer kept, but I'm trying to see if someone is right for me. Well, that is a difficult question to answer, because part of that is trusting your own instincts. What I would do would be to look at their actions. Actions speak louder than words, and I tell people that all the time, and I wholeheartedly believe that. So watch and see how they interact with other people or other things or what have you, to get a better sense of who they might be. And if someone tells you something that really seems off, and then they say they're joking, it's a red flag.
Yeah, watch out for anything that seems like inappropriate jokes or like take all. It seems to me that when people joke about something on some level, they take some little part of it seriously or it wouldn't be funny. So, I take people like the people who drive around with a bumper sticker on their cars with a big middle finger on it. I take them seriously, and I figure that's generally their attitude, and that's the way they're going to treat people if they put that on their car. So, the humor thing I think is just in a lot of cases a way to be mean or obnoxious and go, I'm just joking, ha ha ha, isn't it funny?
Yeah.
So just
So their sense of humor is really important. If their sense of humor includes enjoying other people's discomfort, embarrassment, pain, um, or whatever, that's not a good sign. It I had a client once that she had lost her leg through an infection, and they had a difficult time getting a prosthesis that would work. That it was a really horrible medical thing, and so forth. And she was on a set of stairs with the new prosthetic, and the prosthetic fell off because it wasn't fitting correctly, and she fell down the flight of stairs. And she went to her doctor and told her doctor what happened, and he says that would have been fun to watch, you without your leg falling down a flight of stairs. So that kind of a comment,
well,
definite
that's
red
really
flag.
obnoxious from a doctor.
Seriously,
Jeez.
from anybody though.
Yeah.
I mean, this, yeah. I actually recommended she sue the hospital, and she did and won. So, way to go. But still, Teresa says, "What is your understanding or definition of a sorceress?" I don't know. It's a cool word. I like it. Uh, I mean, a sorceress and a wizard, I guess, would be about the same kind of thing if you're in that kind of definition of things. Sorceress would certainly be a magic user, certainly could be a witch. Um, Label, I don't know.
I suppose it doesn't necessarily imply positive or negative.
No, it's not like defined that way. Robert says, we will receive a message soon. Okay. Oh, I thought I should let everybody know that the predicted earthquake that was supposed to happen the last 3 days did not materialize, and we're all still here and fine, and the Pacific Northwest hasn't fallen into the ocean, just so you know. I read that online. Big, huge warning. Everybody watch out. I can't remember who it was from, though. Some group who thinks they are receiving good messages. Beth says the study was great of being a Wiccan and choosing your denomination. However, it really almost turned into like a Christian bullcrap church. No insult to anybody. That's probably because of the do no harm, threefold law. A lot of people take it that way, and I can understand that. And then, of course, the controlling what everybody's doing and making sure no one's doing anything that they would object to, and being worried about their image and so forth. Asher says, yeah, the Irish guy started cursing me in Irish after I brought the fairies. Should I take a salt bath? That was weird. Not a bad idea. Or, you can wash your hands and let the energy leave your hand, leave your body through the water. Um, yeah, if you think that if you absorb some of his icky energy, then maybe not a bath so much as running water over your hands and feet. And that'll like instantly drain any foreign energy that might be in you. You can do that in a stream if you've got one, or you can do that on a bathtub by putting a board across the tub and then sitting on it and turning the faucet on and putting your hands and feet in the water. The trick with that is to not have the rest of your body in the water. So however you can accomplish that, or in the ocean, wherever you might be. But that will immediately pull out energy that's not yours out of your body and get rid of it. And it works quite well. I learned that when I lived up in Saskatchewan and saw this one healer guy. And I've never forgotten it, and I've used it more than once. So, and I know because of the one time I had to use it in an emergency that it definitely works. So that was a wand. Robert says, I never could fit in any Christian church or being near Christians. Their energy is weird. Yeah, they're extremely judgmental for a group that says they don't want to judge anybody. Beth says, I have 3 ruptured discs in my neck and a torn meniscus where my cousin died and tried to kill me in the ether last week, 48 hours after he crossed. Ow! Beth says he was a powerful, crooked politician, and when I was born, he was dumped and he tried to kill me on this plane and another. I'm sorry. That's terrible. I hope you kicked his butt all through the ether. Smacked him up one side of the astral to the other. Some dude says that Robert Wicca is a good starting point for learning a system of magic. When you get down how the rules work and develop on your path, you'll be able to make your own magic style.
Yeah.
Chief Keef says, have you guys ever made a video about astral path working? Well, we've done astral temple, we've done on the astral itself.
But as far as the astral path working goes, no. I've been thinking about doing one, of course, starting at the bottom and probably taking the path of the serpent back up and do those for astral path workings. Maybe that's my clue that it's time to start it. Yeah, so I'll consider doing that and doing like maybe taking one path a week or something like that. That'll give me videos to do for a while, at least 32
Give you a
of them.
subject, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll have its own spell,
Well, if I
its
do all
own
the astral
playlist.
path workings, it'd
Yeah.
be like 32. So
And make it their own separate playlist.
yeah.
Yeah. So everyone can find
So I
it.
could do that. And I'm considering it, but no, we haven't done that specific thing yet.
So Beth says, Chief, Siofra, and Ian have a wealth of information via videos, and Chief says, I'll delve into it. I'm specifically looking for pathworking videos based on the Tree of Life. Teresa says, when I was 17, I started learning how to astral project. I started leaving my body from my feet. I'm thinking of resuming practicing this. Where should I go first? I don't know. Make your own astral temple. That would be number 1.
That's true. That's a good practice anyway.
Yeah,
And
first start off creating your own astral temple, so then you have a base of operations that's yours completely, and no other energy can get into it, and it gives you a safety platform from which to work, and then from there you can go into the astral realm and see what you come up with. But remember, just because you encounter something in the astral doesn't mean it's literally true. That's a mistake a lot of people make.
Right.
So you still have to use discernment. And Chief says, thanks, Beth. Beth says, I'm 43% Irish. I'm really black Irish, but I don't get along with Irish men. Well, you know, what can I say? Robert says, I almost did an astral travel once, but I got back right away in my body due to the fact that I could not process what was happening to me. It's not fear, it's like a reflex that I could not accept. Yeah.
Well, it feels different. That's a fact.
Well, the weird cold going through your spirit is kind of strange. And the being able to see everything around, and then seeing things that you're not sure what they are, and you're not sure you want to be around them or not because you don't know what they are. And yeah, I had an interesting thing about a week ago, I think now, a Jupiterian spirit that I knew when I was in my 20s has come back to say hello. He only visited me when I was taking my bath, and then he was in my room a couple of times. But he's sort of interesting because he's just a glowing green ball of energy. It's just a sphere of energy. And I thought, surprising. Okay. Things from the past coming back to visit. Beth says, Irish women love Scottish men. Okay. Robert says, I'm 50% French, 50% English myself from Quebec, frozen Canada. All right. We have a bunch of Canadians on here. Teresa says, didn't mean leaving from my feet, but that I want to start practicing again and want some adventures. Well, I think we answered that. Yeah. I peeled off from my head and ended up at my feet when I was leaving, which is interesting. It is sort of like being peeled, though, when that happened. Astra says, I was telling the fairies made up stories last night because couldn't sleep. They like it. Very cute. Oh, they love it. They love stories about myths and gods and goddesses and other spirits and so forth. I entertained them once when I met the two-headed dragon guy in Big Sur. Not Big Sur. Yeah, no, he was in Monterey. Big Sur was something else. Um, yeah, and they really enjoy stories, so good call. Beth says, Siofra, they love you. It's never happened before. The birds landing on your. All right, awesome. Asher says, Yay, Beth, I think I'm going to stay solitary. A lot of people in these communities are just nuts. Yes. And you have to be careful opening yourself up to them. Beth says, Ian, you are so right. There is so much truth and subtle sarcasm. And Beth says, Astra, so beautiful. So true, beautiful soul. Robert says, we must not be nuts. Then again, Benny Hill said once, cafe for some nuts. Yep. Well, see, nuts is relative too, isn't it? Asha says, I think calling myself a wizard would be funny because I'm a girl. Yeah, there is that. Is there a wizardess? Or maybe it's like a gender neutral term and male or female or, other can be wizard. I don't know.
That's true. I don't know. It's not a gender neutral. I think it ought to be gender neutral myself.
I think there's an assumption that it's male because of the movies. The wizards are always guys. They don't have the women being wizards. Why is that? Robert says, I play Magic Arena, and the company that owns it is Wizards of the Coast. I feel a wizard playing cards. Well, that's
Cool.
good. Chief Keefe says, I do get the hate against the Christian church, but do not underestimate the gnosis of the Bible and other religions.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way to a certain extent, even though I'm not a Christian per se. I do try to dig stuff out of the Bible from time to time because I think there's some esoteric wisdom hidden in there. It's just so hard to get out. And of course, the Christians don't just see that, they take it all literally, pretty much. That was all.
Robert says, Astra, you're a sort of natural witch. Astra says, okay, I'll try the water trick. Thanks, you're welcome. And really, in an emergency, that's the best thing to do. Robert says, very cold water on the face and hands works wonders for that also, Astra. Sandcat says, why do Christians say it's not up to them to judge, then go ahead and judge? Because they're not following their own religion. And like I said, actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true of all people. I mean, really. That's why if I don't know something, I say I don't know something because I don't want to pretend to knowledge or experience that I don't have. Because, that is, well, it's just a lie, is what it is. And, people might aspire to do better, and that's fine. They can say that. They say, I try not to judge, but I'm human, and I find myself judging you anyway because I think you're crazy. That'd be one thing. But they seem to come from a place of they think they know, and they have an absolute authority to decide whether what you're doing is evil or good, based upon their own mythology and their own narrative that they have decided to adopt. And that's what it is. It's a narrative. It's not a reality. It's not like the comet that's coming into the solar system this month and then leaving our solar system for the rest of time. That's like an actual thing that's happening that we can see and measure and predict and look at and all that other jazz. And these are things that we create in our minds to either give ourselves purpose, make ourselves feel like we belong to something, that we have something figured out, not so powerless or what have you. So that's all of them, including the narratives that I'm sure I have, are like that. We just need to know that that's what they are. And then if something new comes along, we can change our minds. Beth says, I kicked his ass with my father and guardian angels. Awesome. Good. Good for you. Robert says, agreed, Sandcat. Nice name, by the way. And if angels exist, does it mean that Nephilims or even cherubims exist? Not really.
Well,
Not necessarily.
I think the question is, One of the questions is, are angels what they're portrayed by the Christians, or are they pre-existing beings that have been called angels and named angels by the Christians? Or is that just a definition? Or, I mean, yeah, what exactly defines an angel? If it's just a spiritual being, well, lots and lots of them exist out there. So,
Yeah, when I saw them when I was a kid, I called them angels because that's how the Christians I described them, what I saw. And I don't think that they are Christian. I mean, I don't think that the church has an actual, um, I don't know what the right word is. That they adopted them, like Ian was saying, because they already existed, and then they used them for their own purposes. Just like they took the Fae and turned them into denizens of Satan, and they already existed and they were already here. They took other things that existed and sort of tweaked them to fit their own
yeah,
narrative to make it
Barden
work.
Barden mentions specifically that there are a lot of prayers and things to the 72 Mercury zone beings that he lists, and that they were worshipped as angels in years past. So, and the same thing with the Nephilim and all that. It depends on what you're actually talking about, whether they exist or not, or whether they're something that Christianity made up. They may have taken something that was pre-existing and named it, or it could all be to support because Christians have to have this God and anti-God uh, philosophy. It's not Christianity if you don't have a devil to fight against. So they
Light
they
versus
they
dark.
make a duality of it. It has to be a duality if you're Christian. So the good and bad and everything.
So, like if you've got demons that can come on Earth, you have to have angels that can
Yeah,
come on Earth to balance
it's
it
more
out.
likely that there's a continuum and spectrum of spirits doing all kinds of different things, and they just named them good and bad that are entirely human conceptions. I'm not sure if I'm going too far afield for that question.
I don't think so. That's kind of where I was heading. Asher says, yeah, I think I was subconsciously summoning beings as a kid. Saw my first UFO as a 7-year-old with my family. I'm the only person in my family experiencing the UFO thing as an adult. Teresa says, I have an astral temple. Good idea. Awesome. Visit and see if it's changed. When I revisited mine, it had changed quite a bit. It was very interesting because it changes as you grow magically. So it's sort of interesting to have a look see. Robert says, Shifra, did you had experiences using meteorites or other fossils? Well, yeah, I mean, I use meteorites. I have, uh, yeah. I don't know exactly how to answer the rest of that question. Meteorites can be difficult for some people to work with because of the fact that they have zero Earth energy, because they come from outer space and from they're part of our solar system, so they are part of the larger uh, environment that is, us when it comes to that. But their energy is so far outside of Earth's alone experience and the human condition and so forth that it can be a stretch for people to use them. I have a hollow ball filled with fluid condenser that I made to gather the energy of meteors and comets that go through the solar system. And that's how it's charged, is to gather that external, not our out, that kind of energy. I'm not sure what I'm doing with it yet, but one of the things I did was I put a meteorite at the base. I found one of those uh, holders. I think it's like a fondue holder or something. It's got a big circle on the top and it's got a little circle for a candle in the bottom. So I think that's what it is like for a fondue pot, but it makes a perfect receptacle for the ball, which is the one of the what do they call them? The fish balls,
Float.
the fish floats, and drilled a hole in that and filled it up and sealed it and put it on the top of that and then put the meteor right there, and then under it put a piece of seraphonite to bring in that energy and make it work. So
Yeah, and if you haven't tried drilling a hole in a glass float, it's an interesting experience to keep from shattering it.
yeah, you did a good job. We're always learning new things, aren't we? So yeah, I guess I have. And I have worked with some fossils here and there, but I've seen when we were at the cabin on the power spot, I saw through time one time when I was sitting there just gazing out and saw what the place looked like when the dinosaurs were still roaming, and there was a herd of dinosaurs going by the cabin. So that was kind of interesting. So I suspect there might be fossils out there somewhere. But yeah. Jen says, hello, Shifa and Ian and everyone in the chat. Been lurking for a while, but my first time commenting. I'm so happy to catch a live while it's going on. Welcome, Jen. We appreciate it. Astra says, wow, that's cool, a green being. Yep. Robert says, not the unholy green giant. No. Robert says, hi, Jen. Beth says, I was born astral projecting as Shifa was. I'm used to it. That's how I survived an attempted murder. First time this happened. Ah, yeah, and that's actually not an uncommon thing in serious situations like that, that people escape the situation by going out of their body. I think the psychologists and the psychiatrists think that, they understand that that's not a real thing, but it's just how people interpret it. But yeah, it's a real thing. Robert says, wow, it's an intense story, Beth. No kidding. Jen says, hi, Robert, and thank you for the warm welcome. You're welcome, Jen. You will love it here. And Beth says, here is home. Robert says, agreed, Beth. Oh my God, Beth. Yeah. I'm so sorry that that happened to you, and I'm so glad you survived. Beth says, at Astra, you can do this, I promise. And love Robert, kisses. Chief Keef says, yep, a lot of religions have allegorical teachings. Those with a bigger ego tend to fall into right brain thinking.
Yeah.
Robert says, Shifa, did you ever work with Kali? Oh, yeah. Kali was one of the first dark goddesses I worked with, and I worked with her when I was living in Santa Cruz. And actually, the statue of Kali that I have in my bedroom was brought back to me. I think I think it was before the earthquake that we went through in '89. A friend of my son was going to India with his mother and asked me if there was anything he could bring me back from India. And I asked him to find me a statue of Kali. And so he did. He brought it back. And in my mind, that seemed to be like more significant than just, buying one off the internet or in a store, to have it in India when he bought it and then travel with it and then bring it to me and hand deliver it to me. So there was this direct link to the continent. And so, yeah, uh, a lot of times people have a problem in the beginning working with the dark goddesses, as they call them, because they're extremely powerful and can be unforgiving when it comes to uh, the raw power that they wield. But understanding that transformation it's a part of transforming, and Kali is very much into protecting, of course, her followers and whatnot. She has a lot of different aspects, like all the Hindu deities do. She's not just the dark goddess, but she's also Kali Ma, the mother goddess, and there's like a whole continuum, I guess, of that. And the statue that I have of her, it represents the letting go of the ego, the cutting through the thoughts that get us in trouble and get us trapped in places that we can't see the forest for the trees. All the things that she has in her hands, each is symbolic of something like that that's taking place. So, yeah, it's interesting. Beth says, Chief, absolutely. Robert says, agreed, Chief. Chief says, angel merely means messenger. Astro says, I mean the attempted murder story, Beth. That's effed up. Glad you're okay. And Beth says, exactly, Ian, or what you said. Chief says, angel is Hebrew, Moloch, messenger, or Malik. Beth says, Astro, thank you, love. Robert says, Shifra, I had an extra corporeal experience last night, or at night. I saw a bunch of women. They were bigger body than me and with gigantic white wings. What are they? Sounds like they could be angels. Yeah. Or they could be a goddess form, because a lot of goddesses have wings too. The Egyptian goddesses, the Greek goddesses. Wings are pretty typical as a form to represent otherworldly, outside of yourself kind of energy. So I don't know, maybe you should ask them. Chief says 72, you say? That would be about the Mercury things.
Yeah, think Shemham Parash, since you're familiar with the terminology, and you'll find the 72 names, and then there's the 70. There's also the names of 4 letters that are the superior god name to that. Barton explains that in his book that those are the angels normally listed as the Shemham Parash are the 72 angels of Mercury, or the 72 spirit beings of Mercury. So there's a definite connection there, which is worth researching.
Astra or Beth says, Robert, I forgot the name for that. And Astra says, yeah, a lot of Christians are very neurotic.
I might have pronounced that wrong. It might be like skim. I know a lot of them call it schema or schema. Anyway,
I don't know. Don't look at me. That's all you.
I'm sure people can figure it out, even
Yes.
if I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Yep. Teresa says, Robert says, when you remember, feel free to tell me about the name for that. Teresa says, I've been wondering about the validity of banishing versus invoking pentagrams. If I draw it wrong, but call it what I intended, is that adequate? I don't think so. You need to watch my video on invoking and banishing pentagrams.
Yeah, I mean,
one brings it in
be,
and one lets it go.
I would recommend not getting it backwards because you'd be it's like there's a current of energy associated with doing them one way or the other, and while you could redefine that for yourself and absolutely make it work, it'd take twice as much energy as going along with the consistent use of it.
Yeah, or more than twice.
Yeah, so
It'd take a lot of
it's
energy.
going to make it a lot easier if you're not having to make it for yourself.
And then think about this too. The spirits know what they expect you to be able to do. I mean, because of that current that's there, that's been used for who knows thousands of years. And if you do it wrong, they're going to know that too. So it's better to look into it and figure out exactly why. When I started doing
it'll be a lot more effective.
Right. When I started doing the banishing and invoking pentagrams, it took me a while to understand exactly why you drew them the way you did and what that was talking about. But when I was doing them, it became obvious by the practice what was happening and what was expected. So, yeah. So try practicing them. You can start off with just one pentagram to get the feel for it both ways. The only one I didn't agree with from the old books was the Akasha, the way they have the invoking and banishing pentagram for Akasha, because Akasha is spirit and everything is always there all the time anyway. So I went with a simplified form of, pointing, going up to the spirit point and down to draw the pentagram. And then when I was ready to release it, then going back up from the other side and back down, and then going back around that way and reversing what I had done. So to let the energy leave. But the rest of them made perfect sense. Absolutely perfect sense. So I did a couple of good videos on the whole pentagram and how to draw them and why and the symbolism of them, the sort of the deeper meanings of what that is. It isn't just a star if we're doing it right.
Yeah, and for general purposes, I would recommend the Earth pentagram because it can kind of be used for anything, but I would make a distinction between invoking and banishing, and then, of course, I'd highly recommend getting specific. When I would do the pentagram ritual, I would visualize each pentagram in its own specific color. And I draw them specifically, whether, for invoking or banishing and for that particular element, though the banishing ritual per se, the LBRP, so to speak, gives them all as the earth banishing, and that's okay. You can use it that way because earth pertains to all 4 elements. But it's, of course, it's more powerful to get specific.
Well, you don't have to start off that way. In the beginning, when you're starting to draw the pentagram, I recommend that people do it with imagine a blue-white light and they're inscribing that light in the air as they draw it. And when you get good to the point where you can really see that, then you can start, and then you've done the pentagrams for a while and you understand them, then you can start expanding into doing them in the color of the element itself, um, and and more kind of things with that. But it's a whole practice in and of itself that is a foundational kind of thing, I think.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't get the sense of using them, or they get uncomfortable with them because of movies.
Well, and the one thing to remember is the more you do them, the more comfortable and natural it'll feel. You're sort of creating a little energy charge of your own in the universe every time you do one. So the more you do it, that'll build up over time and they'll become steadily more and more effective as you do them over and over again.
Yeah, and then you can start practicing throwing
Yeah.
them
As long
and
as you're
like having
doing,
them instantly. I had like a dream where someone was attacking me in a dream, and I'm standing there like drawing the pentagram in my dream to throw it at them, and I'm thinking that took a little long. So then I started practicing, like, with my hand and thinking about the pentagram I'm trying to do, and then just like throwing or pushing it or what have you, so that there's lots of different potentials. Okay, so Beth says, I know the definition, Robert, but I can't remember the name. It's driving me bonkers. Robert says, yeah, Beth, it's a mystery for me. I saw them in front of me, not a dream, but they were alive like me, like not an image in my mind. I was there with them. Robert says, Elohim or Nephilim, maybe. Beth says, crows love Siofra so much for many reasons, but they go between the ether and this planet. Yeah, I was reading that. It's kind of cool. Robert says, they said I come from them. That's pretty cool. They came to visit you and said you come from them, so they're probably coming from a different plane, which is where we all come from. Beth says, Robert, I know I experienced a black entity not of this world. I was tormented for years until I got angry and told her to leave me alone. Yeah, don't put up with stuff. Astra says, are humans a collective species? I worry about quantum entanglement. I want to be me. I feel like as my gifts open up, I feel like I don't know who I am anymore. Yeah, that is an issue that all of us have to figure out. And that's one of the reasons for doing the work, is to figure out what you like and what you don't like. And you can help define yourself by that. What is okay for you, what is not okay with you, what you will be willing to allow, what you won't allow. These are ways to define yourself as an individual. And becoming individuated is really the whole point of any of these practices, no matter the tradition, is to become a unique, individuated person and responsible for your own spiritual evolution and development, which is not easy. So I know. But the more separate you can get from others, the better your boundaries are. The more you can think for yourself. And it's okay if what you decide to do turns out to be a mistake, because that's how we learn. So long as you're willing to accept a mistake, if you learn from it, then it won't have been a waste of time. So yeah, I but we do have that connection. I get weird connections. Sometimes I'm like, what the heck? No way. Robert says, wow, Beth. Yeah, Beth's been through a lot. Teresa says, I might be asking too many questions, but I'm wondering if I should clear my house before placing my obsidian in the four corners. Last time I cleansed my space, it was an all-day process. Well, you don't have to actually physically clean your house. You can just psychically clean your house. So you don't have to take all day, I don't think. But if you're setting your obsidian out in your corners to collect negative energy and ground it out, I don't know that it's necessary to do the cleaning first, because that's the whole point of them.
that's true.
Depends on how you choose to look at it, you know. You got to look at your own brain there when it comes to stuff. Chief Keef says the House of Mirrors is a place full of illusions. Robert, keep a dream journal. It'll probably make sense later on in life.
That's a very poetic way of putting it. That's one of the things I like about Crowley's writing is he has a lot of those things in there like that. He's a good writer. Not that I wanted to bring up the subject of Crowley, but despite his reputation and everything, he certainly knew how to write. Sorry.
Asha says, is it normal for the Kundalini to shatter the sense of self in scares of ego death? what New Agers say when New Agers say we're all one, I don't like that. I'm me. Okay, so I agree. The New Age format is bad because it tries to take away individuality and tries to break down your barriers. When the whole New Age thing really got started, and I had random people coming up and hugging me and telling me that they loved me that I'd never met, didn't even know their name. I've had that in a Unity church kind of a setting too. It's like I'm very uncomfortable with that because not having boundaries, not being allowed to have them was how I was raised, and gaining boundaries and allowing myself to have them is important to me, and I'm very jealous, not jealous. I guard my privacy and my boundaries, and I'm very aware of when someone might be trying to cross it without permission. And so, I don't hug people unless I ask them if it's okay. They don't hug me anymore unless they ask me if it's okay. And some of them it's not. It's like, no, thank you. I don't need a hug right now. And that sort of passive aggressive controlling. And these people would come up and do that. And then it was very difficult for me to tell at the time whether someone was trying to come on to me sexually or whether they were being genuine and we were all brothers and sisters in love and the light and stuff like that. It was very crazy making. I hated it. And that was before I really had good boundaries, so I can't imagine now it would definitely not go over, be like a lead balloon. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like that would be a red flag. Any group or people that are trying to minimize your sense of self and your ability to make your own decisions about what is and isn't okay, and sort of present it in terms like if you want to become enlightened, you need to be able to do this, is a cult in the making, whether they have become a cult or not. It's like that is the first step to grooming you to be a good member of a cult group. And not all of them are like really famous and stuff like that. It's like, it's just very typical.
I feel like I need to make a comment here that this teaching doesn't originally come from cult groups and such. The idea is that behind this whole thing, and I agree with everything Siofra said about the way this is presented and the way people treat it. It's a way of being myopic or um, people acquire this idea and they use it without understanding the meaning of it. The idea is when you reach that point is that you discover that what you thought was yourself is in fact a collection of rules and things that we've been taught from birth and things we've learned. And it's basically your bondages. So the way it should be used is when a person reaches the point of transcending those bondages or limitations in their self. And the idea of us being the same becomes something totally different. Once a person generally reaches that state, then they can't become a cult leader, not of their own doing or something like that, because they feel as humble as the lowest, most underprivileged person. So I feel like, for the sake of pointing out that that is a valid teaching along the road to enlightenment, but I agree with everything said about the way it's treated
Or used.
and being used. It should
Yeah.
never be used to make you get rid of things or that type of thing. It's more should be a falling off of something that's no longer needed, like when you've had a cut and your scab is healed and it comes off normally. You know, if it's not that type of a result and somebody's trying to push you into it or push you into renouncing or giving away or something, but I felt it was only fair to point out that there's a very legitimate aspect to that when you're searching for real enlightenment, but you don't find people like that are not a dime a dozen like New Age and stuff would have you think. It's like very rare. If you really want to find out about somebody like that, look at Eckhart Tolle's teachings, he's alive today and has reached that state of dropping off, and he's at complete peace within himself at this point. So I'm sorry, I don't disagree with the way you meant everything you said.
Well, no, I agree with you
Yes, so,
wholeheartedly.
okay.
That's
So,
the
yeah,
problem, is that real truth can
yeah,
be
sorry.
used to be
I
manipulated.
just felt that that needed to go, we needed to go a little bit more deep on that. Yeah, because it's so often misused.
Yep. But yeah, so there you go, Astra. Teresa says, I love Kali. She helped me so much. Beth says, I have worked with Kali long ago. Robert says, Siofra, I talked about Kali because, believe it or not, I woke up one morning and I felt in my soul that the country of India, the India country spirit, invited me there, and it was strong. Good. I mean, I haven't had any memories of being in India, but I have such a connection to the deities that are there, and I'm so comfortable with them, and they like me so much. I'm assuming I have history there for sure. Sandcat says, I worked with Hecate, happened quite by chance. I didn't recognize her at first, but she kept pushing me and had to just about hit me over the head for me to take notice. Robert says, Hecate is demanding, but she will teach you great things. Sandcat says, I really love working with Hecate. Yeah, and actually, when I was thinking about, the Kali thing, um, I actually connected to the dark goddess energy a lot longer ago, but didn't have a name for it when I lived up in Saskatchewan when my daughter was an infant. So that was 1975, 1976. That I started connecting with that whole notion of destruction being not necessarily a negative thing. And I found that when I was weeding my vegetables and had to decide who lived and who died. But it wasn't like formalized. So, Astra says, is Durga a dark goddess? I heard she's part of Kali. I like that she took out demons and is about setting things right.
Well, that is what it's all about, is taking out demons. And most of the dark things you see, Kali, I'm sorry to interrupt there. Most of the dark looking tools that she uses are for cutting up and destroying your own hindrances and your own internal demons and things. It can all be applied internally. Um, it can all be very, very positive. Unless, of course, you're one of the demons that need cut away.
Yeah, I'm not going to like it then. Jen says, oh yeah, Robert, I've been lurking around for several months, devouring Siofra's and Ian's content. I'm so glad to finally catch a live while it's happening. Yes, we're always glad to have people who show up and are not
Yeah.
lurking as much as they were in the past. So yay. Robert says, Hecate is not easy to work with because she carries with her so many dark spirits that makes empath feel off. Astra says, maybe it's the Valkyrie. They have wings. I just saw the Northman. The Valkyrie was dope.
That's true. I've never run into the Valkyrie.
Robert says, maybe. Thanks, Astra. Currency Riddler says, treat the pentagram like a magnet. Okay. Attracting and repelling. Sandcat says,
So, yeah.
I have only ever felt love and acceptance from Hecate. She has helped me so much. I think a lot is going to depend upon your personality and your personal relationships and stuff like that. For sure. Robert says, yes, Hecate is kind. She will protect you. Teresa says, pentagrams. You convinced me. Good. Asher says, ooh, we can throw pentagrams? You're like an X-Men. Well, I got that from Ian because he throws them in his dreams. And
Yeah,
then I thought, hey, I could do that.
yeah, I throw them like a ninja star, but since I've got the pentagram so fully, in my consciousness as far as what it means and its symbolism and stuff, I just make them pop in my hand like a ninja throwing star and throw them at the bad guys.
Yep. And they go like, ah! We did that one accidentally that one time where something was trying to come through while you were throwing a pentagram and it hit it and just dissolved it completely. Beth says, I'm on the phone. The television froze. I'm sorry. Robert says, Beth, it is a sign that the birds are sending you to not watch too much TV. Because some spirits use the frequencies of TV to come into our world, almost same way in the movie Poltergeist. Oh my, we're in trouble then. Jen says, thank you for the warm welcome, Siofra. I'm honored to be here. Your wisdom has been helping me tremendously. Thank you. You're welcome. Sandcat says that, Robert, I was completely broken, and this is when Hecate came to me. I never expected this. I had not heard of her before. She came to me. I do feel blessed. I try so hard to do my best for me. And that's really all we can do. I mean, really, is our best.
Yeah.
And Beth says, Robert, perhaps, but I know my birds, well, it wanted to bless Siofra. Well, maybe I'm just so strong your TV just went, ah. It's
No, we don't.
all those talk about pentagrams. And I threw one accidentally at the camera and it went through her TV set. It is the internet, actually, right? We're all connected. Sorry. Astro says, that's solid advice. Thanks, Siofra. That's very practical. Likes and dislikes, no's and yes. The toilet paper sheets go over, not under the holder. Everyone, that's my boundary.
Everyone needs a boundary. That's right.
Robert says, Hecate came into my life almost exact same way, Sandcat. We was in my energy for many years. Beth says, Robert, for decades I have house waters and love these birds. I know every sound they make, every species. This bird came for her. And Robert says, this can be true. Anyway, it meant something. Well, it's important not to interpret other people's experiences. This is an example of that.
That's true. Everybody's omens are pretty much individual.
Very individual.
Yeah.
She knows what her omens mean to her. And if it happened to you, you might have a different interpretation.
Yeah.
Jen says, I've always been a spiritual person and have seen and experienced supernatural things since I was a young child. But the last 10 months have been extra wild. Robert says, wow, Beth, yes, birds are awesome. I also love their sounds. I love also their sounds. Violet says, I just want you to know I've been listening the entire time and you both have such incredible grounded wisdom. I just love your show. Thank you. You're welcome,
Thank
Violet.
you.
Robert says, Jen, I also had a couple of UFO sightings. Did you? Astra says, yeah, I don't like hugs if I don't know people and have trouble speaking up for myself. But I started saying no hugs unless I initiate, and I asked if they want a hug. Yeah, it's like personal space seems like the basic thing to start with. It's like, I got in trouble at massage school because I didn't want this guy I just worked on to give me a hug. I didn't like his energy, for one thing. He stared at me the entire time I was working on him, and I was all creeped out. And so
Yeah, that doesn't help.
when we went to hug me, I took 2 steps back, put my hands up. I said, no, thank you. And he went and complained to the teacher that I was going to miss out on this great opportunity to be a great healer because I had this problem of not being open enough. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. Sorry, dude. And she told me, like she believed him. People, they're so funny. They don't think straight. Beth says, Robert, you're correct. I have all the clairs. I can't even hear, smell, and feel the earth. I can even hear, smell, and feel the earthworms, I'm sure. Robert says, wow, Beth, that is awesome. I think you could sense the people's energy on this chat room. Jen says, I found your channel while trying to research and make sense of what I've been experiencing. Constant synchronicities with repeating numbers literally almost every time I see a clock. Robert says, yep, I see often 444, 555. Beth says, Robert, while I was in the Mississippi Delta, they chase you. Here in the Smoky Mountains, they don't come forth. Are these the earthworms? Asher says, holy crap, Beth, them earthworms. Be like, oh, rats, she knows we're here.
Around here, it's banana slugs during the rain season.
Ah, Beth says, Jen, play the lottery. Robert says, wow. Ha ha, Beth. Hey, could you help find numbers? Jen says, and now I am seeing animals crossing my path that should not be there, and there is nothing else around them. I know they're signs, but I don't know what they mean, or why there seems so much urgency. Yeah, well, that is one of the things, is try to figure that out. Maybe just a warning to be alert and pay attention to everything that's going on around you. And if it's a specific kind of animal, maybe look at what that animal represents. What kind of animal? Are they prey? Are they predator? What's their habitat, kind of thing.
For us, deer always means like kind of a pleasant thing, welcoming or
safety.
You know, yeah, something nice from nature.
A positive sign.
Yeah.
That everything's okay.
Neither of us have either ever hunted deer or ate, at least I haven't.
Yeah, I
But you
ate deer
have that,
once
yeah.
and couldn't eat it. Someone
So
gave it to
yeah.
me
I
as a
mean, I
meal.
ate it as a child, but I didn't know the difference as a kid, you know.
Yeah.
But
It
yeah.
made me throw up. Everyone else was fine but me, so I decided that that was a sign I
So
wasn't
it
supposed to eat my
seems to be a
power animal.
positive sign for both of us, dear, because they show up for me frequently especially when I'm feeling in a bad mood and I need a little cheering up or something. Get a couple does out, wandering around, that kind of thing.
So Teresa says, I have a past life memory of living in India. Also, I have gypsy lineage from the late 1700s who entered Europe from the northwest India. Hecate is kind of bossy, but she chose me and I'm being less resistant. It will work out, I think. Robert says, really, Teresa? That is great. I will try to go to India one day. Agreed. Beth says, Robert, went to several Christmas events. One was picking numbers, and I was the last person walking in, and I want $10,000. The other, I won, I think, $10,000. The other was another Christmas event. I won bingo 3 times, and I was cut off. Yeah, they're like, I'm sorry, you're too
Nice.
lucky for us. Go away. Violet says, yay, that throwing pentagrams is awesome. Yep. Robert says, usually to give the person a clear sign she accepted you, she gives you a pressure on the neck. Did you have that? And wow, Beth, I think I better be friends with you for real. I could be rich. Beth says it was a cardinal. Robert says, I love those cardinals. The red color is awesome. Beth says, they never come in. Robert says, yes, they are shy and stubborn. Beth says, love violet. Robert says, purple. Beth says, for some weird reason, people want me to invite their personal space. I am a hugger. Robert says, got blue jay birds. Me too, Beth. I hug people real hard until their head gets out. Esther says, ew, that's creepy. He's probably a predator. You don't need to hug anyone. All right. Jen says, Robert, sorry, I don't know how to highlight your name. I have seen things in the skies, but I can't say for sure if they were UFOs or not. Beth says, massage school was drama, going to school for what you already knew that you had to be legal. Well, that's true. But I learned a lot and I really enjoyed the anatomy. That was the really super awesome part. Knowing about how my body was put together. I was trying to figure out what was going on in my shoulder and actually I figured it out. So I had a tendon that was snapping every time I put my arm in a certain position, and the tendon that goes underneath the clavicle to the scapula in there was the one that was doing it. So I was able to actually get that fixed. Let's see. Robert says, understood. Jen. Beth says, I guess UFOs are wise enough not to fly around in the mountains at night. I thought that's where they went inside the mountains, according to the people at that class.
Glass.
Weird. The people on the ranch. Skinwalker. All right. Robert says, my energy is sort of changing and eat more and more fruits. Does someone here have the same thing? My energy is changing all the time, so I'm constantly eating different foods. Beth says, Robert, I did in my 30s. Jen says, I live in the city, and in the last week, I've had my first a peacock cross the street in front of me, and then Friday at 3:22 at night, while leaving work, saw a peahen. Sounds
Oh, that's
like
pretty
Hera
awesome.
to me.
Oh, is that Harris? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
peacocks are Hera. And also water in my personal pantheon or whatever. But peacocks are, and in India, the peacock is a positive sign because peacocks have the ability to, um, I think it's the peacock, yeah, that has the
Supposedly
ability to
they're
eat
poison.
poison
Yeah.
and not be harmed by it. So that actually sounds like a positive symbol to me.
Yeah, there were some old charms and things made from.
Yeah.
I don't remember any details at this point.
And of course, the peacock itself, I mean, my encounter with Argus, who historic, in the legends, the eyes of the peacock were put there from Hera's child Argus, who was killed during one of the Argonauts things. He was guarding something, and apparently it was the wrong tree I was thinking of. But anyway, he was killed, and when he died, she sprinkle his eyes into the tail of the peacock, and that's where they are. So being able to see things differently. And when I met Argus, that was a pretty intense moment when I was at Starhawk's workshop and Argus just sort of showed up right above me. I was laying down and looked at me, and all of his eyes were open. So the open eyes of the peacock or of Argus are to be able to see things that are hidden, things that other people are trying to hide, and they can't. If you're using that, if you have that ability, or if you have that energy with you, is like the truth will come out and you will see what is hidden. So that would be my interpretation of that as an animal symbol. So there. Just off the cuff. And Robert says, Beth, you mean you're eating more fruit? Asher says, one time I had a dream a robber was trying to break in and all I had was hot glue gun. And he says, what are you going to do with that? And I glued his eyes. That's good. I like that. He can't see ya. Robert says, a good anti-rob trick. Jen says, I have never seen peafowls outside of a zoo, and I've seen two in a week span, and I've lived in the same county for 53 years. Well, see, there you go. Asher says, I was crafting the day before, so it was hilarious. My dream used the glue gun as a weapon. I love it, though. That's good. It's like you're protecting yourself even in your sleep. Way to go. It says, I love the anatomy part, but I already knew the Eastern medicine, so it's kind of boring. It was like a beginner class. Not in the Smoky Mountains. Will either run into dirt, rocks, or water. Currency Riddler says, peacocks are quite a deal in alchemy, too. Robert says, Beth, I want to ask you, do you eat more fruits than any other foods? Are you empath? Jen says, all of this started when a new person came into my life, but I don't know what it all means other than this person must be important. Well, I think there could be a secret you need to see, potentially. Beth says, peacocks raised my dead post-menopausal libido. Jen says, oh, thank you so much for that information, Siofra. Can you cite a good source for me to learn more about Hera? Not really. I just search the internet and look for things that seem reasonable, um, and then look at other sources too, and then see what's just generally repeated and may not necessarily be accurate, but just regurgitated from other places. So you just have to keep doing that. Beth says, Robert, I am an empath. I don't tell people, but this is a safe space. Now I crave savory and vegetables. Robert says, thanks for sharing, Beth. I understand this choice. No worries. And we're actually getting close to the end of our show. It really has been going by fast lately. And Robert says, Siofra, is it true what shamans do? The fact that they're smoking tobacco or other stuff makes them astral trip? Well, I'm
Well,
sure that there's different
yeah,
traditions depending on the culture.
they use it to assist, but by no means is it necessary for astral travel. And I've noticed that I went a brief stint where I did a few offerings for some, what's the word, Santeria deities, and a couple of them like a beer and a cigar, and like a dark beer and a cigar, and I noticed that that tended to activate my third eye to a certain extent. But I wouldn't advise any of those methods because they're likely to leave you more unbalanced elementally. I'd recommend learning to do those practices without the aids. But yes, there's a lot of tobacco use, especially among like voodoo and Santeria and some of the beings like that, and it does help them in that way. And yes, shamanic use too. Of course, the tobacco the shamans use is way stronger than like the normal cigarette tobacco or what have you. It
Yeah, and one of the things to know about that particular, the medicine men and medicine women, I have that video, Shamanic Dismemberment, which sort of delves into what traditionally is supposed to happen to them, the ability to transmit or transit between the living and the spirit world on a conscious level and bring information back is the gift. I think the tobacco is just a means of centering, or whatever the tradition is, of centering themselves to make themselves ready to be able to do that. But if they don't have that ability to start with, smoking's not going to give it to you. It's like it's not actually the vehicle
yeah,
for transmission.
just consider too though the tobacco they were actually smoking gets you high basically because it's way stronger than anything, you know. I mean, it's more like a major drug, and then you'll have a major headache and stuff afterwards that they used to smoke for that too. So it wasn't just tobacco as we know it as regular tobacco. It's extremely potent
I'm sure it was all
tobacco.
charged
Yeah,
up
yeah,
because it's used for sacred
and
purposes
charged
only.
up well too. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
So,
it's more like a drug.
Jen says, I'm very much a truth teller and value honesty above all else. Robert says, me too, Jen. Thank you for your insights, says Jen. And Astra's joking. They smoke something, probably not tobacco. Teresa says, I got all the answers I was wondering about. I appreciate your knowledge. Thanks. Robert says, okay, thanks for clearing that out. And Beth says, I know time flies by in this sacred space. Throughout the week, I count the hours down. Blessed be everyone. Robert says, blessed be all. Esther says, sorry, Robert, I'm a big kid. Yeah, it's time for us to go. Jen says, the person who came into my life is a practitioner of Yoruba, Santeria from Cuba. I am of Cuban descent as well. Okay, interesting. All right, so keep your eyes out, you know, all of your eyes. Keep your eyes open and see what you think. Okay, guys, as usual, it's been absolutely fabulous. And we've had lots of good conversation and subjects and everything else. Haley says, hi, Siofra. I've been feeling more and more open to magic lately. Something in me wants to light a candle with my mind and connect to energy differently. What are your thoughts? Thank you. I think that sounds like a great idea, and our show is over. So I'm sorry you came in at the end.
Hi, Haley. Bye, Haley.
Yep, hi and bye. Next time, come in earlier. We start at 2 Pacific time. Oh, shoot, I'm here too late. Yeah, sorry. So see you next week, maybe. And then we can get into that. So
Bye, Al.
thank you all. Blessed be to everybody. Have yourselves a fantastic week. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Well, it's